life-threatening accidents so much harder than in a city. He rang the woman back and held his breath, hoping a tower pinged her phone. She answered with her name, her voice breathless. "Is the ambulance coming? There's also a man and a little girl." Her voice rose to a shriek. "I found them in the ditch." He added at least 3 seriously injured to the log. "Juliet, are you still on the tourist road?" "I don't know. I took the road to Gringerup." He stared at the map. The tourist road would have led her into town, so where the hell had the GPS taken her? There were at least 2 gravel roads she could be on. He had no choice. He was going to have to talk the distressed woman through the coordinates and hope the line didn't fall out again. "Juliet, I need you to listen to me carefully. Can you do that?" "There's so much blood." Her anguished cry eviscerated him. "And no one's moving." 1. The jolt of the Boeing 787's wheels connecting with the tarmac made Hannah Simmons grip the armrests and press her back into her seat. She didn't realize she was holding her breath until the plane slowed and the flight attendant said, "Welcome to Perth International Airport. Local time is 12:20. Hannah glanced out the window at the ominous grey sky and shivered. Her tank top, perfect for the heat and humidity of Singapore, wouldn't be enough to keep her warm on a Perth winter's day. The moment the seatbelt sign switched off, she dug her pashmina out of her backpack, then switched on her phone. A raft of pings sounded as messages downloaded. The first was from her brother, Declan, who'd driven her to Changi Airport. "Hope flight was uneventful. Great to see you. Next time bring Jamie. D. Kiss." The week in Singapore had been a mix of grief and comfort. The 4th anniversary of their parents' death in India early in the pandemic. Hannah appreciated Declan's gift of paying her airfare so she could spend the week with him, sharing memories and leaning on each other. Neither of them would ever forget the phone call from the Australian consulate giving them the shocking news. 2 weeks later, after the memorial service, Declan's response to the trauma was to throw himself harder onto the international banking ladder. It was as if his life depended on early career success. Still very much single, he'd now been in Singapore for 3 years, and Hannah tried hard not to give in to irrational feelings that her entire family had abandoned her. She was mostly successful, reminding herself that the weekly video calls with Declan were no different from when he'd lived over east. She just wished he lived a lot closer. Hannah's reaction to their parents' deaths had been the opposite of Declan's. Floundering in everyday life, she'd been unable to make any big decisions. So instead of using her recently acquired marketing degree, she'd stayed on at the call centre, and a part-time student job had slowly morphed into an unanticipated career. She'd risen through the ranks and gained the skills and experience to manage a large team, but she hadn't loved it. It had remained very much just a job. Meanwhile, her friends had used the passing years to kick career goals, get married, buy houses and travel. Hannah hadn't appreciated their pity or their judgment about the fact that, unlike them, she was treading water rather than actively engaging in her life. For her own mental health, she'd eventually withdrawn from that group, socializing instead with her call centre colleagues, mostly students, who were free of judgment. But by the time she turned 27, she was very aware that she didn't fit comfortably in that group either. It was at a New Year's Eve party a year ago, surrounded by drunk and affectionate, drugged-up early 20-somethings, that she'd decided she could at least take charge of her love life. She'd caught an Uber home, brushed up her profile on the dating apps and started scrolling. Jamie's profile had sounded great, but she'd prevaricated over his photo. He dressed like a nerd, and not a sexy one at that. But there'd been something about his eyes that called to her. That, and he was holding a border collie puppy. She was a sucker for a puppy, so she'd tapped the screen. A couple of days of